collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Voyager-class Cybertron Universe Vector Prime from the Transformers Legacy United line from Hasbro. I'm really excited for this one. I love seeing Cybertron get all this love. We have Exilion coming later on, also in this wave. Now, I didn't think these were supposed to come out until, I think originally they said September or August, but people have been finding them recently. I had it pre-ordered on Amazon, and it said, in 2 weeks. I found it at my local Target this morning, so I'm very excited to get this one. I think he looks good. Now, this is a crazy retool / repaint of G-Axis from way back in the first wave of Legacy, and it's to the point where it's almost unrecognizable that they used that mold. You can kind of see it back here in the legs, and we'll take a look at all that, but this thing looks really cool. I'm really excited for this one. I'm hoping it lives up to my excitement. Nice artwork here on the side of Vector Prime here in robot mode. Got the vehicle mode up here on the front. Not really anything going on down here. Over here we have our usual half of the Legacy United mural, and then we have the Legacy United logo up top. And then over here on the back we have the robot mode and the vehicle mode. Now I could be wrong, but I'm not remembering a back fin here in the vehicle mode. I'm kind of thinking that's left over from G-Axis. I could be wrong about that. But I don't think the original Vector Prime had that. I think he just had the big wings on the side, and then his Minicon plugged in up top. Unfortunately, don't get the Minicon here. What are you going to do? But I think this looks really cool. I'm going to go ahead, get it out of the box here, and we'll take a closer look. Here is Vector Prime out of the packaging. I gotta say, he looks good. I think they did a really nice job. It's kind of crazy to think that this is actually the G-Axis mold. I love the color scheme. I think this kind of darker gray was definitely the right choice, because I think the original toy was a little bit whiter, maybe a little bit more off-white color, and I just think this looks better and we won't have to worry about it yellowing over time. The gold really looks sharp. You have the trim here on the shoulders, in the chest, on the waist, here on the knees. I kind of wish there was a little bit of something here on these cables that are part of the shins, whether it was gold or silver or even maroon. I just think something in this area would have popped, but I guess they're kind of trying to just make the legs uniform, because this detailing is carried over from G-Axis, and we'll see that in a moment. So they probably didn't really want it there, but it already came with the mold. You have some nice maroon here on the feet. I think the head sculpt looks great. Really nicely done. Let me zoom in here a little bit on that. Really nicely painted as well. That blue kind of tealish, metallic teal, whatever we want to call that color for the face. The eyes look great. The little bit of gold up here. All of that really looks sharp. I think they did such a nice job. They really knocked it out of the park with the paint. I'm really happy with it. Articulation-wise, the head's on a ball joint, so you can look down ever so slightly. I will say this is the one problem, and maybe it's just mine. A lot of the joints feel a little loose, and the chest piece doesn't really peg in and snap in as tightly as I'd like. It's not a huge problem, honestly. It holds together fairly well enough, but if I try to tilt the head back, it pops off. So just kind of, keep a thumb there. But I mean, on the shelf, it'll hold together perfectly fine. But you can tilt a little bit back, a little bit forward. You can kind of tilt a little side to side, but really you can look side to side. That's where the majority of the articulation comes in there. You have a hinge here in the shoulder, as well as a swivel. You have a bicep swivel. You can move the shoulder pads as well. And there's a mushroom peg in here. See if you can actually, probably won't be able to see it that well, but it's kind of in there. And when I got mine out of the packaging, I had to push it in. It had started to pop out. So if it pops out, you just push it back in. Not too bad. But like I said, the shoulder pads can move, and that gold trim does transfer to the back. So they did not cheap out and unpaint the back, which I really appreciate. That teal on the top there, I appreciate that they kept that going. Bicep swivel, like I said, maybe a little over 90 degrees in the elbow. The elbows are for whatever reason, the tightest joint on this thing. Then you have a wrist swivel, and then you have opening hands, so you can see that the fingers there open up, and for whatever reason, those are the second tightest joints on the whole figure. You have a waist swivel. See what I mean? This just feels a little loose here in the waist. Kicking forward, not too bad. You can see the part of the skirt comes with it. I think that works really well. Can't really kick all that far backward. One, because of the cape pieces, though you could move those out of the way. Two, because this piece, because it's kind of off-center like that, it starts to hit into the back. But you can kick really far out to the side. You have a thigh swivel, over 90 degrees in the knee there. Ankle tilt. You have a little bit of front to back ankle tilt as well. So yeah, all in all, I really, really like how he turned out. Articulation's good. Paint applications are good. These pieces here are also a little loose. These pieces on the original toy used to be able to fold in half, and then they kind of looked like cape pieces off to the side. Since these don't move, they've made it so you can swivel this to the back if you want to kind of give them a cape look. It kind of looks like a cape, and honestly, that's achieved fairly decently by being able to turn them like that. From the front, that kind of looks like a cape, so I'm okay with that. Love the sword. Comes with two accessories. We have the sword and the I always called it a force chip because I watched Galaxy Force instead of Cybertron just because it came out first. But I think they called it a hyper planet key or something like that. So the sword first. Would be nice to have a little bit of paint. You can see that there is some detail molded in there, but I understand. For whatever reason, the handle is done in a kind of harder maroon plastic than the rest of the sword. And then it has a peg here on the back. And then for the force chip, again, would have been nice to see some paint, but I get it. It has two tabs here so that we can tab it into the chest, which we'll get to in a moment. Or it has this little connector here so that you can peg it onto the sword right there if you like. So whichever configuration you like better, you can do that. You can peg this onto the chest here so that it covers up this area. I will say when you peg this in, it's kind of difficult to get out. Not impossible, but kind of difficult. The original toy, he had the little connector slot here on the waist, and that's why it pegged in there and then sat there. They've gotten rid of that, but you can still peg it onto the chest, which is nice. Let me get that off of there. And again, just all of that paint really looks sharp. I think that looks really good. He does kind of have a slot here on the back. So if you want to pretend that he's pegging that in there, you can do that. You can also peg the sword in on the back if you like the look of that, because he did kind of have his sword on his back. It's a little low. I would have liked it to be a little bit higher so that, you know, you'd see that on the back. But you also can't have the force chip pegged onto the sword and have the sword pegged onto his back, because it's only got one peg, so cannot do both. But yeah, overall, I think the robot mode looks good. I think the articulation's good. I think the paint scheme is fantastic. I like the accessories. I'm going to put them off to the side for the moment. But yeah, overall, I think he came out great. And it's kind of crazy to think that these two are mold brothers. And that's where you can see I talked about how those cables are left over from G-Axis. I would say from the thighs down are exactly the same. You can see that this molding is the same, just painted a little different. The feet are the same, just painted a little different. They did remold the kind of crotch area, the chest, of course, the shoulders. I think maybe the forearms, or the biceps, I should say. Yeah, I would say from the biceps down are all the same. So the bicep, the forearm, the hands, those are all the same. And these kind of connector pieces here on the side. But the chest has been remolded, of course, the head, the shoulder pads, and the crotch area. But I would say basically like his whole arms and his whole legs. But it's funny because when you put them next to each other, it's still not, they still don't really look like they're the same mold at all. When you really look at each piece, you can tell, oh yes, that's the same, that's the same. But just putting them next to each other, they don't really look like they're the exact same, or I should say using the same mold as a base. Because they've changed a lot, and it works. I think they both look fantastic. But when you put them next to each other, it's kind of shocking to realize how much is the same, with basically the entire arms, the entire legs, and then these little pieces here on the side. because so much of what they changed is so radically different, it really does make them look like two completely different toys. So getting into the transformation, not terribly different from G-Axis. We'll go ahead and start by flipping this open, rotating the hand into the forearm. For whatever reason, this one's a little tight. Close that one up. I don't have as much problem with this one. It usually rotates in pretty easily. And there we go. You can go ahead and fold the shoulder pads down. We are going to come around to the back here. I kind of like to just get these out of the way as much as possible. And we are going to unhook this from the back. Then you are going to unhook this whole section here from the front. So we will flip this all the way down like so. And then you want to just rotate the head all the way in like that. You are going to lift up this section. And then this is actually going to rotate 180 degrees like so. These will rotate in, straighten out the arms, and you can just kind of let them float there for a second. Then we are going to take this and push this back down, and it will snap on. There we go. And the funny thing is about this, while I was transforming the vehicle mode, I was kind of, pushing things down, and it would act like there's no way that's ever going to make it. Like, it just seemed like things weren't close enough or they weren't going to connect, and then all of a sudden it would just snap into place, and it ends up being very solid in the vehicle mode, but it doesn't feel like it while you're doing the transformation. And I'll show you some other spots where I kind of felt the same along the way. But we're going to rotate the waist 180 degrees, kind of just bring the legs down here for the moment, rotating these out of the way again. This is going to come down and it kind of soft clicks in place. I don't know that it actually connects to anything, but it just kind of like soft clicks in place. I can't explain it, but because it must be something on the other side. I don't know. In any case, it'll soft click in place. You can lift this section up, so kind of these thruster pieces here will kind of pop out as you lift this up. You can fold the foot in. You can flip this piece around like that. Now, I don't know if you don't want that, because the original vehicle mode did not have that. I don't know if I can leave that. I don't think so, because I think this is too long. Yeah, you'd have to get that out. I was hoping I could leave it, but like I said, that is one holdover from G-Axis. This little fin here. Vector Prime did not have that. So you can see that there's a large tab right here, and there is a tab slot right there on kind of the kneecap. So this is going to go up, and then... And this is another place where I was like, this is never going to get up here and like firmly click into place. And then it just kind of all of a sudden does it. I almost had it there. There we go. And then it clicks in, and it's a tight snap. Like, it's in there. So just keep trying, and it will eventually go up in that area. But lift this up. Fold the foot in. Bring this up. And kind of do the same thing. Wiggle this up into where it needs to go. There we go. Snaps in. Oops, these will snap together. And then these will kind of peg into the bottom of the feet. There's little tabs here on the thrusters, so that'll all peg in. And then you bring these down, and there's this little like hook here on the side. So you just kind of bring this down, and that will hook into here, like so. And you can see that the connector spots for the wings, so these are the old connectors for the wings that G-Axis had, because those wings hung out on the back here, or maybe it was on the side of the leg. But because this is the same mold, they're still there, even though there's no wings connected there, which I think is hysterical. Oh, before I drop this in, I forgot I have to rotate this. And then drop that in there, and then that will just kind of hang out to the side there. Going to do the same over here. And bring this in. And And you kind of want these at like a little bit of a downward angle, and then it goes straight across. Now, I guess technically, if you wanted to, you could kind of bring this down and hide it like that if you didn't want it there. It's not going to go all the way in, and it might get in the way of the arms. We'll have to see in a moment, but I think you could tuck it back there because, like I said, Vector Prime is not supposed to have that. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to leave it like there for now. But you're going to take the arms, and then these sections are going to pop out. You can see there's a double hinge there. And then there is a tab right there, and that's going to go into that tab slot right there. And then this will kind of go all the way in and click into place, and then this will click into place. So bring this down. And make sure that this goes all the way down. So like that little purple piece there should be straight and then angled. And then drop that in here like so. And then if you wanted, I think you could. I think you could leave that in there. Yeah, you could leave that in there. So if you don't like the look of the fin, which I kind of don't. Now, granted, it does make him look kind of plain on top, but it is technically more accurate. So I feel like these need to be bigger. And like these can move around, this moves around. So like this is what I'm talking about. Like this just feels a little loose. It's not terrible, but it does feel a little loose. But yeah, there is Vector Prime in vehicle mode. You can take the key here, and that can peg in right here and here. Now I will say that's very difficult to get out of there after you do that. I usually use the sword to kind of pry it out of there. But you can also store the sword. You can see there's a connection spot on either side. And then pop that there. And there you go. There is Vector Prime in vehicle mode. I think it looks pretty sharp, especially now that I can tuck that fin underneath, because I really didn't like that fin being there. Now, if I remember correctly, again, on the original toy, these were kind of more in this area. So these shouldn't be all the way at the back like this. It's not a huge problem, and it doesn't bother me all that much, but it does kind of make this just look very plain. But I love the detailing down here. I love the little canopy here. I think that's fantastic. All of this gold paint and the metallic teal all looks fantastic. The maroon looks great. So again, color scheme continuing on there. This feels a little like snubbed. I feel like that should be a little longer. I totally understand why it can't be, because it has to do with, you know, the chest piece here. And I guess technically if you wanted to leave that out there like that, you could. But it's very simple to spin that back and forth. I appreciate that, though. I'm glad that they, you know, because I think technically on the original toy, the chest section was kind of back in here. So, you know, he just had that giant piece on his back. It was like a long, basically this whole thing would have been on the back of the original toy, and then it just flipped up and pegged in. So I think they did a pretty good job with how they had to work this, and I think the vehicle mode looks good. Again, love the colors. The paint looks really sharp. I like that I can get rid of the fin. The arms on the bottom doesn't really bother me. I don't think that's a problem. These all secure in, and I feel like it does feel pretty solid in the vehicle mode, so I'm pretty happy with that, because I was a little afraid as I was transforming it the first time. Things didn't feel like they were going to shore up and really click into place, and then just all of a sudden, like these two sections here really snap in nice and tight. This section snapped in nice and tight up here and everything, so yeah, he holds together pretty well. Now, of course, I do wish he had his mini-con. I would love to pop that right there on that little peg, or maybe some way to connect them on the back here in this area. I still feel like what they need to do is just do like a mini-con battle pack and make it a Hasbro Pulse exclusive. You know, all the Armada characters we've gotten that should have mini-cons. Vector Prime here. You could even do the little trio from Cybertron as well. Just give us some kind of, you know, Hasbro Pulse exclusive, like 10 mini-con pack or something. I feel like that needs to happen, and I'm hoping they do that at some point. But yeah, really, really liking the vehicle mode. Not perfect. Oh, and I just dropped the sword off. That's fine. Again, not perfect, but I like it. I like this figure a lot. I was excited when the first pictures were shown, but having it in hand now, I like it even more. I think they really crushed it with this one. The color scheme's fantastic. The head sculpt is great. The sword accessory with the Hyperplanet key, force chip, whatever you want to call it, that's all been really well done. Having these pieces here act as kind of a cape on the back, I think that really works. The transformation is very similar to G-Axis, and the mold does share more pieces than you would probably suspect with G-Axis, but they've changed enough that it feels radically different to me. Even though pretty much the whole arms and the whole legs are the same, it doesn't feel that way because the chest and the shoulder pads and everything else are so radically different that it just doesn't make it feel like the same toy. I really, really like it. I love seeing Cybertron get more love. I love seeing more figures from that show. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. Like I said, a couple of loose joints, not the end of the world. Everything holds together well enough, and I'm just really happy to finally add this one to the collection. Can't wait to get Exilion or Hotshot or whatever he was called. In any case, that's going to be a really fun toy as well, and I'm hoping they give us some more from Cybertron going forward. But we definitely need some Minicons. Please, Hasbro. Minicon Battle Pack, Hasbro Pulse exclusive. Make it happen. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.